Alright, how y'all doing? My name's Daniel. You can look at my other videos if you want to get more of a background about military history. I did 2 tours as an infantryman out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I'm a Purple Heart awardee. Both my tours were to Iraq. I was there for an initial invasion in 2003, and I did another 15-month tour in 2006, stationed at a Fob Falcon, Baghdad. I joined the Army 3 weeks after I turned 17 and had my boots on the ground in Baghdad 16 days after my 18th birthday. So if I already said it in one of my other blogs, I've been trying to confirm for the last 6 months since I got out of the Army. I was medically retired due to my injuries I received during my second deployment. I'm trying to confirm whether or not I was the youngest person to serve in the Iraq-Afghanistan conflict, specifically the Iraq conflict, as I did not actually do any tours to Afghanistan. But if someone does have me beat, or if someone can have me beat, they'd have to have me beat by 15 days. I was there 16 days after my 18th birthday. So if someone has any way of maybe that they could help me to confirm that, or not confirm it from my own knowledge, that would be great. All right, I've been receiving a lot of comments, and I delete them because, frankly, I don't like people just, especially like a lot of the conservative bloggers, they just throw some bullshit up. Like I wail on Bush a lot because Bush sent more than 120,000 troops that were stop loss to get deployed when he was AWOL, and I crack on Bush's and Dick Cheney's war record. And Dick Cheney had war record is simple. He had 5 deferments, he got 5 draft orders, and 5 times he got out of it. So that's pretty simple. So I'm not even going to bother with that. That's easy to prove. But Bush, so I got 2 pages of shit that I did research on Bush's war record so that I can get the conservative people that are starting to look at my videos to shut the fuck up. So I'm going to start with this. Alright, Bush, 2 weeks before he was eligible for the draft, or he was going to receive his draft orders. Mind you, how the hell would he know 2 weeks before he was going to receive those draft orders? Well, how you know is your dad is a Texas representative and your grandfather was senator of Connecticut. That's how you find out when your draft order was going to come 2 weeks before it actually comes. So how it worked was, in order to serve in the Texas Air National Guard, which, plain and simple, the National Guard was invented during Vietnam to get the rich kids out of war. That, plain and simple. I mean, you really will be hard pressed to find anyone that will argue that fact. And nowadays, of course, it's meant for, you know, like emergency relief in the U.S., like Katrina, as well as so we don't have all our troops deployed. We have a certain amount here in the U.S. So now it's a it's a logical and necessary thing to have. But during Vietnam, there was no chance of the Vietnamese invading us, so they didn't need any National Guard, especially they didn't need to create one there. So how it worked is in order to serve in that unit, you had to sign up for a 6-year commitment. In order to be in a non-deployable unit, like the Texas Air National Guard, which is non-deployable, once you're in that unit, you had 0 chance of getting deployed. You had to agree to serve for 6 years. So Bush served less than 60 days for the first 4 years he showed up. He was supposed to show up for a total of 55 to 60 days. He showed up for less than half of that. So mind you, National Guard, how it's supposed to work, including how it works now, is that you have a duty day, you know, the 2 weekends, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year kind of thing. If you don't show up to that 1 week in a month or that 2 weeks a year, you're supposed to be AWOL. Plain and simple, you're supposed to be AWOL. Especially during a time of war. Once the time of war, National Guard, even though they really don't enforce that out of wartime, during war is when they do enforce it, because when you're getting called up for National Guard, they don't tell you until you know, they make you come in for that 2 weeks, and then they get everybody there so they can tell you in person. You don't have an excuse for not showing up, like I didn't get my letter in the mail that said I had to deploy. But I gotta hurry up with this. Alright, so for the last 2 years of his 4-year commitment, according to the commander that was on the ground at the damn, I'm skipping all around, so I'm just going to go right down the list. Alright, despite 2 written orders after his 4-year, 2 written orders which was verified that Bush actually received to appear in person, he never appeared during those specific 2 written orders. So after those 2 written orders, paperwork was put in that showing that he was FTR, failure to report. And how it works in the Army is if you are FTR, if you fail to report for your assignment, if you're in the National Guard, or if you're in the enlisted Army like I was, I wasn't a weekend warrior. Then at 6 o'clock during, that's actually 4:45 during that PT formation. If you don't show up, you have 24 hours at your FTR. And after that 24 hours hits, at 4:45 the next day, you're AWOL. So since Bush didn't show up for 2 complete years, according to his war record, he didn't show up for those two complete years. He was AWOL. So Bush was AWOL for 2 complete years during wartime. So that fact right there should be enough that, and this was all information that was available prior to 2000. So it's just the fact that America, I was too young. I was too young to vote in 2000. So just the fact that America voted for Bush in 2000, whenever that basic piece of information was easily obtainable, just makes me sick to my stomach. And that just, it's so, not only the fact that so many people were willing to vote for him because he got up on a pedestal and said, I'm a Christian, I'm a moral man, and since I'm a Christian, you can just take my word for whatever I say, and there's no need to do any research. And lo and behold, America sure as fuck didn't do any research and just voted for his ass. So he was given a commission as a second lieutenant by means of special appointment. That special appointment was with the approval of 3 senior officers on a board. So he was put between 3 senior officers. One of those 3 senior officers was General James Rose. Now, Sidney Edgar, who was a lifelong friend of the Bush family, testified back in 2002 that he didn't specifically name which of the Bush family member he received a request from to make a phone call to Brigadier General James Rose. Brigadier General James Rose was the one that was in charge of the Texas Air National Guard base, the one that was sitting on the 3-man board. Now, mind you, he got that second lieutenant rank whenever the requirements that everybody before him and everybody since has had to live by. So mind you, Bush is the only one on record that has ever gotten this kind of special treatment. Now there's going to be 1, 2, and probably 3 segments of this. Bush only did 6 weeks of basic training and was given a commission as a second lieutenant. Mind you, at the time, these were the requirements in order to become a second lieutenant. You had to have 8 full semesters of college ROTC courses or 18 months of military service or completion of the Air Force Officer Training School. He had none of those. So never before in history had that ever happened. Has someone gotten only 6 weeks of basic training and given the second lieutenant commission as a second lieutenant? Never before and never since has that happened. But Bush has continually said he didn't get any special treatment whenever the actual board on his paperwork that of those 3 senior officers that gave him that rank was called special appointment. So no special treatment, but it was a special appointment, right? All right. So I already told you about the longtime family friend, Sidney Edgar, who testified that he received a phone call from the Bush family saying that he wanted to call General James Rose, who happened to be sitting on that board. And mind you, if Bush hadn't gotten into the Texas Air National Guard, at which he scored 26 out of a possible 100, 25 was failing on the entry exam, he only scored 26, he would have been drafted. He would have got his draft order. He, of course, would have got a deferment. So that same general sat on another 3-man board to give him his promotion to first lieutenant. Even though he was AWOL for more than half during this, he was given that commission as first lieutenant less than a year and a half later. Wow, less than a year and a half later after he was into the Texas Air National Guard. And that promotion is heard of in combat because your second lieutenant and your first lieutenant and your captain are normally dying. So that's why it's called combat promotion. So that is a speedy promotion while in combat in Vietnam, from second lieutenant to first lieutenant in a year. Yet he did it while not showing up for more than half of his duty assignments. All right, Bush was pushed ahead of more than 1,000 service members who had met the full requirements of those 3 things: the semesters, the Air Force Officer Training School, or the 18 months of military service at ROTC. So he got pushed of more than 1,000 soldiers who met those requirements. So one person ended up going off to Vietnam and very well dying because Bush got pushed ahead of more than 1,000 service members. And mind you, no special treatment there, who had the qualifications. And one of the requirements in order to fly is, in order to be a pilot in the Texas Air National Guard, this is an absolute requirement, is you'd have to have 3.5 to 5 years of active duty flight time. It means you had to be active duty enlisted in order to be in the unit. And the reason it's 3.5 to 5 years is because it depends on what kind of aircraft you were going to fly. It's depending on how much stuff you had. Of course, he had no pilot's license, never flown a plane before, had no flight experience, no flight training. So go to see Bush number 2.